Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. It is great to have you here on a Tuesday. Not as always, I almost caught myself. I'm no longer joined by my dad for today's show. He'll be back on Friday. We have a lot to talk about today. We have a great show planned for today. So let's jump right into it. Some questionable news coming in the coming days, actually. Aaron Rodgers talked about his VP excursion. Maybe, maybe not. He decided to play instead of being a VP. We'll talk about that. Also, Justin Fields stuff later on in the week. But let's talk about today in today's show. Let's start with JuJu Smith-Schuster and the New England Patriots, because I don't understand how he came up with this, but after the first day of OTAs, JuJu Smith-Schuster said this, and I quote, "For me, I've been in multiple rooms where they draft receivers, and it just kind of makes me better as a player on the field, and being able to have some young guys come in should actually help this offense. It helps out a lot, all of us as a group. What I think it's going to do, everyone's level is going to kick it up a notch. And here's where it really gets crazy. Not everyone in that room can play. We're stacked right now in the receiving room. It's only for the better." Stacked. The Patriots wide receiver room is stacked, according to JuJu Smith-Schuster. Now, obviously, as a player for the New England Patriots, JuJu should be relatively happy with the players around them because he's playing alongside of them. But this wide receiver room is not stacked. Kendrick Bourne and Demario Douglas are interesting pieces. Demario Douglas won't beat you on the outside. Is he a nice slot guy? Sure. Kendrick Bourne, I think, is underrated, but he is the wide receiver one for the New England Patriots. Jalen Polk, a rookie. Javon Baker, a rookie. Tyquan Thornton is a complete bust. He gets hurt all the time, and when he plays, he's not all that great. KJ Osborne, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4-piece. JuJu, apparently he's 100% now. He was playing at 60% relatively, supposedly. I don't know. I don't think he's good anymore. Jalen Reagor, okay piece. Kayshon Boutte was in Belichick's doghouse the entirety of last year. And Kaywan Baker, who knows? But this is not a stacked wide receiver room. And JuJu should know about good wide receiver rooms. He was actually one of the reasons why Antonio Brown was so mad towards the end of his tenure with the Pittsburgh Steelers. because JuJu was getting a lot of receptions, a lot of targets, and a lot of yards. Antonio Brown was mad about that. So he did his thing, and now Antonio Brown is reportedly filing for bankruptcy. Kind of ironic. But I'm not going to say this wide receiver room is stacked, because according to basically everybody, and especially I keep bringing up Mike Clay's projections for 2024-2025, their wide receiver core is ranked dead last. And I can understand why. So let's talk about that day one of OTAs when it comes to the receivers and overall in the offense. So Karen Gurrigan of Mass Live says, for day one at OTAs, which is essentially a passing camp, there might have been better words to describe the Patriots receivers. Stymied, as in they had a tough time getting open, even in non-contact practice. The big key word about all of this, and out of day one OTAs, it's the same problem that we've seen over the course of several years now with the New England offense. The receivers can't separate. Now, they had Devontae Parker for a couple years, who now he retired, actually, I believe yesterday or the day before, but he was going on, if he played this year, the fifth consecutive year, probably, of having the worst amount of separation in the entirety of the NFL. Ending his years with New England, he already is going on a four-time leader of lowest separation in the NFL. This wide receiver core is not stacked. It's not stacked whatsoever. There is no dynamic piece that other teams and defensive coordinators are going to have to game plan around, because he could beat you over the top. Kendrick Bourne has the ability to sometimes break free. Demario Douglas is too small, but he is shifty and will grow. He's going into year 2. Jalen Polk, a decent piece from Washington. He's going to be a rookie. We'll see. He really didn't get any action so far in practice. What else? KJ Osborne, wide receiver 3-4 piece on the Minnesota Vikings. Javon Baker, a rookie. Tyquan Thornton can't stay healthy. When he's out there, he's not very good. Jalen Reagor, not that great. Largely a bust. Kayshon Boutte, we've seen him for maybe 2 minutes. And then Kaywan Baker, haven't seen him really at all. So, this team is young. According to, at least after day one, I'm not gonna dive straight into this and blame everybody. But after day one, the same problems arise. Nobody can separate. There is no receiver that can separate and make it easier for the quarterbacks. Because as people are observing in day one, most of the throws completed, most of the throws even attempted, were checkdowns or very short passes. Because of the fact, no receiver can get open enough for Jacoby Brissett, who took a majority of the reps, to throw it to him. Like, he couldn't throw it to any receiver because they weren't open. Most of the time, and including even Bailey Zappi, who got a decent amount of reps, they had to hold the ball basically endlessly and then eventually run for it. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. And not only that, and this is where it gets honestly very embarrassing. At one point during the drill late in practice, the coaches pleaded with the defenders not to contest and to, quote, let him catch it just to get through a 2-minute drill. The Patriots offense is not going to be good. And I'm saying this as a fan of the Patriots. I've rooted for the Patriots for basically my entire life. Since I got into football, me and my dad, or at least my dad is a massive Patriots fan, and he got me into it. You can see Julian Edelman's amazing catch from Super Bowl 51 against the Falcons, and then Malcolm Butler's amazing interception against the Seahawks in Super Bowl 49. And I'm saying this honestly. This is not me trying to hate on the Patriots or anyone else. No, based on what I've heard, this is something that has happened over the course of my time doing the show. Entering this past season, or the season before, entering the season before, when we heard about the offensive line, it might have been last season actually, but regardless, we heard a lot about the offensive line and the offense not being able to pick it up and would-be sacks and everything, the offense not moving. A goal line, you couldn't run the ball in. I was like, oh no, this is not going to be good. Not going to be good whatsoever. And it wasn't. Mac Jones got benched. Bailey Zappi came in. They had to draft a quarterback in Drake May, who really did nothing. They, according to this, they weren't asked to do more than simply hit their first read on shorter routes. While Jacoby Brissett and Bailey Zappi had to go through their progressions and hit second or third options, when most of the time they didn't because they ran because the offensive line couldn't hold up and the defense got to them. And so we're in the same situation of the offense is the Patriots' offense is terrible. The defense seems to be good. Or it could be the offensive line is so bad, then the defense is just good enough to get through a sieve of an offensive line. Because the offensive line isn't all that great either. They were ranked, according to this, so far they're ranked 17th. So below average. Good to have Michael Wenu back. Cole Strange is injured. You got a couple nights. You lost Trent Brown, who was okay. But this is scary. It's not stacked. Not stacked whatsoever. Because there is no receiver anywhere here. I'll bring it up again. No receiver anywhere that defensive coordinators are afraid of. You're afraid of Devontae Adams. You're afraid of Tyreek Hill. Hell, you're even afraid of Jalen Waddle, their wide receiver too. You're afraid of these top-tier receivers. There is not. And I believe it was the Arizona defensive coordinator last year who said that they weren't afraid of anybody. And because it's true, there's nobody that the Patriots have from the wide receiver core that people are scared of, that people are nervous about, that they're like, okay, we cannot let him get on top of us. We can't let him get past us. Otherwise, Drake May or Jacoby Brissett, whoever the quarterback is, will have a field day because they'll cook us over the top because of this receiver. I like Kendrick Bourne. I thought part of my Patriots off-season requirements was for them to re-sign Kendrick Bourne because I liked them. But did I think that they should go out and, maybe trade back the pick, get a quarterback and a receiver all in one draft, which it seems like you could have? Yeah. That's at least what I was thinking. That's what I was hoping. But I said that because we decided to go for a point system for the draft, I said I'd rather be right than, think with my head over my heart. So I had to pick them choosing, which I had Jaden Daniels, who I was hoping would be available at 3. But they got Drake May. We'll have to wait and see. Super young quarterback, played in the ACC. Not exactly the best competition to enter the NFL. And then you also had Gerard Mayo out here talking about how he has a lot to work on. You're not hearing that about Bo Nix. You're not hearing that about Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams. You're not hearing that about J.J. McCarthy even. You're not hearing that come out. You're not hearing the head coach of that team come out and say those types of things about their own young quarterbacks, about their own rookie quarterbacks. You're not hearing it at all. Yet you're hearing it out of New England. So it's a little bit nerve-wracking, I will admit. However, maybe this is just day one and we just have to, I need to just take a step back. But I am very nervous unless we hear massive changes happening inside of the Patriots organization and on the practice facility and in the training room and whatnot, where receivers getting open. Running game is great. Drake May or Jacoby Brissett or whoever's making great throws, throwing receivers open. Then I'm like, okay, maybe we have something here. But until then, it's not looking good. All right, let's get into our next topic here. So the New York Knicks did end up falling to the Indiana Pacers in Game 7. Halliburton had 26 points. He had a very, very good game. It seemed like the Pacers could not miss whatsoever. And honestly, this is actually a great story for the Knicks. Because I understand they lost Game 7. They're down about that. They were up, 3-2, and they were up 2-0 at one point, and it looked like the Knicks were going to seal the series. And then the injury god said, not this year. You're already down Julius Randle. You lost Mitch Robinson. You lost OG for large parts of the series. You lost Josh Hart for at least a quarter, and he was definitely not 100% in Game 7. And then you lost, really, you also lost Bojan Bogdanovic. And then finally in Game 7, the injury god said, this is not your year. Jalen Brunson went out with a fractured hand and did not return in the fourth quarter. So the Pacers played extremely well. Extremely well. You shot 54% from 3, 67.1% from the floor, which is an NBA playoff record. They shot incredibly well. But let's be honest about this. It was against a depleted Knicks team. Dante DiVincenzo had a phenomenal game. 39 points, 9 of 15 from 3. So I'm going to talk about it later on in the show. The Pacers are going to face the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics are healthy. The New York Knicks were not even close. The Knicks were missing massive pieces. We're talking about 4 or 5 key pieces to their team. OG tried to play. He played 4 minutes and 41 seconds. Didn't play a single minute the rest of the game outside of that first quarter. Hartenstein, horrible game. 0 for 2. He got into foul trouble. he did not have a very, very good game. Jalen Brunson tried his best. He had 17 in 29 minutes, then fractured his hand and the game was over. This game was over from the start. The first quarter, the Pacers went out 39-27. You could already tell that this game was over. And then it got okay, and the Knicks kept it close quarter to quarter, but in totality, they ended up with a 21-point loss. Because at the very end, it didn't matter what the Knicks could do. They didn't have enough pieces to keep up with the Indiana Pacers. And going into this series, that is what I focused on. Yes, the Pacers are not a great defensive team. They're really not. They're one of the worst, actually. They're ranked 27th in the league in defense, in points allowed at least. Defensive rating-wise, they are, let me just bring it up real quick, they are 24th. So they're not a good defensive team. But it didn't matter. This is the playoffs. Everybody plays about even. Now, the Timberwolves-Nuggets series, that was just crazy. 45-point win for the Timberwolves. Nuggets seemed like they dominant. That was just an insane series. Even some of the Celtics games were relatively close. But in this series in particular, because the Knicks were so depleted, it evened itself out. And all I said was, because I didn't think the Knicks could fully stop the fast-paced nature of the Indiana Pacers offense. I said, could they at least slow them down? Not really. Not when it mattered the most. Not late in this series. And definitely not in Game 7. Tyrese Halliburton, phenomenal game. Pascal Siakam, great game. Miles Turner hit a couple threes. He had 17 points. Aaron Nesmith, 19 points. He went 8 of 8 from the floor. He shot 100%. Obi Toppin didn't have a great game. TJ McConnell, what a series he had. He played great in this game. 7 assists, 12 points. He was plus 21. Tied for the best on his team. He did a great job. Phenomenal job. Nembhard, 8 of 10 from the floor. 6 assists, 5 boards. The Knicks could not stop him. So what do the Knicks do from here? Obviously, a lot of teams are looking at the Julius Randle situation. What would I do? Just to give my 5 cents out here. The Knicks need more depth. I understand. Healthy, they're one of the deepest teams. But with Tom Thibodeau's coaching style of playing these guys large minutes and not really using a significant amount of his rotation players, especially in the playoffs, and that's honestly when I think you'll need that type of depth, you're going to need depth at some point. You're going to need to get a guy who could come off the bench and perform very well. Maybe that's Alec Burks. I don't think so. Maybe that was supposed to be Bogdanović. He ended up getting hurt. My starting 5 should basically, you're going into next season, should basically be the playoff starting 5 of Brunson, DiVincenzo, Anunoby, Hart, and Hartenstein. You could go that route. You could put Hart back on the bench for all I know. You can do whatever you want, really. But what I would do is you got to get a depth piece. That's what you have to sign Anunoby. You're not going to have tremendous amounts of money. But what I will say, though, is you can't rely on Miles McBride to let you go very far. 4 of 14 in this game, 0 for 6 from 3. He did have a couple very nice games, and they did extend him for, I think, a 3-year contract, $13 million, if I'm not mistaken, total. But he's not going to take you to the promised land. Coming off the bench, they literally played 3 of their bench players, McBride, Achua, and Burks. Burks had a great game. Relatively early in this game, when it was still basically a blowout, Burks didn't make it absolutely disrespectful. He was hitting a couple very nice threes. He was trying his best out there, and lo and behold, it didn't matter. That 26-point performance made it a little bit more respectable, even though it ended up being a 21-point loss. So, good for the Pacers. But this Knicks team, if fully healthy, in my opinion, they are the second best team in the Eastern Conference. The second best team. And honestly, if they were healthy, truthfully, I think they could have given the Celtics a run for their money. Now, I think the Celtics would probably win the series, but could they take them to 6 or 7? Yeah. 100% they could have. Even without Julius Randle, if Mitch Robinson was in there, could they have been a little bit better on the offensive boards or just a little bit better rebounding in total or at least defensively? Probably. Yeah, absolutely. But what I will say about the Mitch Robinson situation, I've been on this now for 2 years. I would trade him. He's an offensive liability. You can't trust him at the free throw line. He complains about his offensive commitment, his offensive usage, but he's not really good on offense. Defensively, you have a very, very nice slew of defensive players in OG, Hart. Hartenstein had a great year this year defensively. So you have a lot of defense already. Chu is also a pretty decent defender. You don't really need defense. What you do need, though, is when, especially we saw it in this series, when Jalen Brunson gets cold or DiVincenzo isn't hitting his threes or Hart doesn't play very well, you're going to need a guy that you can rely on to hit a shot. And that's where you need to add. Those are the pieces you need to add. Get one more guard if you're not going to keep Burks. Get a guard or get a guard forward blend. If Hart's not playing well or OG's hurt or whatever the case may be, I'd go guard forward. But what I won't do, though, and we've seen it occasionally over the course of the past week or so, that there's something going on out there in the NBA world that the Knicks would give up basically anything to pair Devin Booker with Jalen Brunson. No. That is a horrible idea. Horrible idea. Because Devin Booker and the Phoenix Suns front office even said this. They're not going to trade Booker, Beal, or Durant. So the amount that you would realistically need to give up for the Suns to consider it is already too much. Yes, they have a bunch of first-round picks. But they would probably want a decent amount of your players as well. Could it be Dante DiVincenzo? Could it be Josh Hart? Could it be Julius Randle? I'd keep Randle personally. I'd keep Randle. I'd keep Hart. I'd keep Anunoby. I would stick with I would basically make this year's Knicks team into next year, just maybe with one or two pieces removed. One would be Mitch Robinson. Get another offensive piece. You have to. Offensively, especially in the playoffs, sometimes the Knicks would get very, very cold. Like in this, it was the second quarter of Game 3, I want to say, where the Knicks shot 1 of 16 to open up the second quarter. You can't do that. And the next basket was with 5 minutes remaining in the second quarter. You can't do that. Especially against a team like the Pacers were, where offensively, they can get any bucket they want. Because in this game, we saw it. Now, it is an NBA playoff record, but they were shooting the ball in the past couple of games, actually. They were lights out from 3. They were lights out from the floor in general. I'd go depth. I'd go depth piece, personally. I know a lot of Knicks fans, and I've talked to a couple Knicks fans. They don't necessarily disagree with me, but the Mitch Robinson thing, they don't like that at all. He's an offensive liability. What do you want me to do? Yeah, he can get a board. Great. Hartenstein can too. We saw Hart get 17 rebounds. Like, we've seen him do tremendous things in the playoffs. Brunson even. He could get a board occasionally. Dante DiVincenzo can get you a board or two. You don't need Mitch Robinson. Hartenstein stepped it up this year. Now in the playoffs, and especially in the past 2 games, did he suffer a little bit? Yeah. But he was really their only legitimate big man. So obviously, it kind of sucks. If you have Julius Randle out there instead, you'd probably take Josh Hart and put him on the bench, unless you want to bench DiVincenzo for Julius Randle if you're going to keep him. So it'd be, let's say you take out Josh Hart. So it'd be Jalen Brunson, DiVincenzo, OG, Julius Randle, Hartenstein. Tell me that's not a great starting 5. You can't. I think that's an incredible starting 5. If not one of the best in the NBA. My own opinion. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but coming up, Timberwolves and Mavericks. Who's going to win that series, as well as Celtics Pacers. I'll break down those 2 series and discuss who I think will be taking those series coming up right after this.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the comment.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance, and why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey. It is great to have you here on a Tuesday. My dad, Stephen Harvey, will be here on Friday. He's taking a little bit of a break. So, but I'm here, Nathan Harvey. This is the Harvey Hour. Let's jump right into the next topic, which is the Dallas Mavericks were able to defeat the Oklahoma City Thunder, move to the Western Conference Finals, while the Timberwolves upset the Denver Nuggets to move on to face those Mavericks. Both series were incredible. Kyrie Irving and especially Luka Doncic in game, was it 6, I believe, were incredible. So they took care of the Thunder, and then in the this Timberwolves Nuggets series was one of the craziest and most confusing series I probably have ever seen in a pretty long time. The Timberwolves looked like they could sweep the Nuggets, and then the Nuggets flipped this entire script around and says, no, we're the defending champions. So let's get this thing rolling. And then it turned out, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, whatnot. But I want to talk about this specific matchup between the Timberwolves and the Mavericks Western Conference Finals. And I'll give my pick immediately, just to save people some time. I'm going to have the Timberwolves winning in 6 games. I think that this Timberwolves team is special, is very, very special. And it is led by one guy who kind of looks like Michael Jordan in Anthony Edwards. He's incredible. Plays like Michael. That mid-range shot he was hitting and the threes he was hitting in the Nuggets series was like, damn, he can't miss. And he'll be going up against the guy in the NBA who is an incredible scorer, triple-double basically every night, in Luka Doncic. Absolutely incredible. But this playoff series, it's quite interesting because Luka's not shooting very well. And compared to Anthony Edwards, Edwards is the better player. We're talking 27 to 28.9 points in favor of Edwards. Field goal percentage is 42.3 for Luka, 50 for Edwards, 30% from the 3 from Luka, 39.8. So it's rounded to 40 for Anthony Edwards. Offensive rating, Edwards wins. Defensive rating, Edwards wins. Usage rate is less for Anthony Edwards. So Ant's incredible in this playoff series so far. But I think, honestly, the key matchup in order for the Timberwolves to win is going to be between Luka Doncic and Jaden McDaniels. Because McDaniels defensively, the entire Timberwolves team defensively was incredible. Let up the fewest points per game this season. They were top 5 in all these categories defensively. In blocks, assists, total rebounds, defensive rebounds, 2-point percentage, 3 points allowed, and 3-point shot, as well as field goal percentage. All top 5, and a couple of those, meaning points per game, as well as field goal percentage, and 2-point percentage, they were number 1 in defensively. They don't allow you to shoot very well. They don't let you score a lot of points. So, what Jaden McDaniels going to need to do is something that he's already done already. Because we have to remember, back on January 7th, McDaniels held Luka Doncic to 4 of 11 from the floor. So, it's going to be up to it's going to be up to Kyrie Irving. And he did not have a very good playoff series. We're talking about halves where he wouldn't score. We're talking about games where it's like, oh my God, this is Kyrie Irving? Is he just taking a step back? Or is he just throwing it out there a little bit washed? But also what's kind of fascinating is that the Timberwolves are kind of set up, they're matched pretty well. Because what we saw, the first 2 rounds of these playoffs so far, Doncic and Irving would set up Gafford as well as Derek Lively for the lob dunks and very nice flashy plays down low. Now you're going to need to go through a wall of Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. It's a good matchup for the Timberwolves. It really is. Rudy Gobert just won Defensive Player of the Year. And you have to run your offense through Luka Doncic, who isn't shooting very well. He's scoring a decent amount of points, mostly on volume, because the 3 ball is terrible. 30% from 3 is not good at all. As well as Kyrie Irving, who completely, so far, he's had a couple nice games throughout the playoffs, but largely, especially in this past series against the Thunder, is like, this is Kyrie Irving? This is a guy who hit a game-winning 3 against the Warriors to win that NBA Finals? It's like, yeah. Yeah, it is. So I will be taking the Timberwolves here because I think defensively, they're going to do definitely a number on Kyrie Irving as well as Luka Doncic because I think Jaden McDaniels, he's gonna have a phenomenal series. So I think defensively, if you look at the 2 teams and then compare them and say, okay, and what we've seen so far in these playoffs is offensive teams generally win if the defensive team can't score. Well, the Timberwolves, a really good defensive team, while the Mavericks are a really good offensive team, the Timberwolves have been able to score. Anthony Edwards he barely misses shots. He barely has bad games. Rudy Gobert offensively wasn't that bad. He averages 12 points in the playoffs. Even Karl Anthony Towns, he's been playing pretty well in the playoffs so far. So I think this is a phenomenal matchup for the Timberwolves because they are great defensively against what the Mavericks are offensively. And if you could do that, the Mavericks are going to need to figure out a way to sort of either counter their defensive plays, figure out a way, or just completely change their offense, or rather alter their offense in order to make their offense sort of run. That means Kyrie Irving won't be able to, he'll need to score more than 20 points in a game consecutively. He can't have 0-point halves. You just can't. Luka Doncic can't shoot 30% from three. We'll need at least 35. We'll definitely need to see the Mavericks play better offensively just entirely. I think really, and we could be honest about this, there's a couple questionable calls in the Thunder Mavs last game. Went the Mavs' way, won on free throws. It's unfortunate for the Thunder. But the Thunder gave them a run for their money. And I think with the way the Timberwolves are playing, and they just beat the defending champions, the Timberwolves, in my opinion, are going to be headed to the NBA Finals. Will they win it? I don't know. But I will be taking the Timberwolves in 6 games. They're just a better matchup against, I'm not going to say an inferior team, but there have been moments. And this could be in large part to Luka kind of changing his game and focusing more on defense, but there have been moments where the Mavericks offense is completely stagnant. And I think against a really good defensive team, like I said, they're number 1 in points allowed. The combination of Mike Conley, Ant Edwards, Rudy Gobert, Jaden McDaniels, and Karl Anthony Towns, their starting 5. That is I think a really good matchup. Jaden McDaniels, I guarantee you, he's going to do a number on Luka's production. Now, we'll see Luka probably get 25, 26 points a game. Sure. But it's going to be mostly on volume. We'll probably see it on 25 shots, which is not always great if you talk about efficiency. So, that's my pick. Timberwolves in 6 games. All right, this show's flying by. We only got one more topic. This is going to be a short one. I should have done this as a Harvey Hour Fired Up, or what I call it last year. I think it was Harvey Hour Fired Up. Let's get to our last topic immediately, because why not? So the Boston Celtics will be facing off actually tonight against the Indiana Pacers in Game 1. This is going to be a great series and a great game entirely because the Celtics have had a decent amount of rest. Now, the Celtics will be without Kristaps Porzingis for at least Game 1 and Game 2. However, they were able to take over against the Cavs, win in 5, and now here they are in the Eastern Conference Finals for the 6th time in 8 years. The Indiana Pacers, however, they needed to literally break NBA playoff history in order to get to this moment. They needed to fight a depleted Knicks team to get to this moment right here, right now, at TD Gardens. And what I'm saying, and by the way, the point spread is crazy. 10.5? 10.5. I'm not going with that. I'll probably say it would be Indiana plus 10.5, just based on the fact that I think the Celtics might be a little bit, I wouldn't say rusty, but not fully engaged entirely. You have to figure out, you have to gauge a meter of where the Pacers play, and you have to manipulate your game, your defensive game, your offensive game, based on what the Pacers are giving you. So I think we'll see a very, very slow half for the Boston Celtics because the Pacers just finished a 7-game series with the Knicks and were flying high and shooting incredible. Like I said, NBA playoff record from the floor, 67.1% for the Indiana Pacers in Game 7 against the Knicks. I will be taking the Celtics here, though. The Celtics, there is no reason why the Celtics should not make it to the NBA Finals, and hell, why they shouldn't win it. Because they are the best team in the NBA. Now, Jason Tatum recently, about, I would say a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, when he was asked about, being called a super team, he said, we're not a super team because we don't have the coach of the year. We only had 2 All-Stars. No. The moves you made make you a super team. Kristaps Porzingis was averaging over 20 points a game his last year with the Wizards. That's a pretty good piece to have. You have Drew Holiday, an incredible defensive guard. It's a pretty nice piece to have, who also averaged 12.5 points a game. So offensively, he's not too bad. He's also shooting basically 43% from three. Derek White, we've seen what he could do. 15 points a game so far in the regular season. But we've seen what he could do for you. He can literally cost you games or literally make the game in your favor with his lights out shooting from three. So Kristaps Porzingis, who averaged 20 points this season, Jaylen Brown, who averaged 23, and then Jason Tatum, who averaged essentially 27 points a game. This is a super team. I'm taking the Celtics to also win in 6 because I think there could be 1 or 2 moments, just like in the previous 2 series for the Celtics, where some team lights it up from 3 and the Celtics are either stone cold or can't keep up also from distance. So my guess is Celtics in 6 because the Pacers are not good defensively. And I know it's the kind of counter argument to the Knicks part. But I think the Celtics just in totality are a more consistent team on both ends of the court than the Knicks are, especially with how depleted the Knicks were at the very end. Losing, 4 to 5 of your guys in Game 7, it's rough to say, oh yeah, we could easily beat this team. Or rather, we could just beat them at all if you're the Knicks with 5 of your star players missing. But the Celtics are healthy. A lot of these teams aren't. A lot of them are banged up. The Celtics, this is, and I think we kind of have to, admit this now. They had an incredibly easy path to the NBA Finals if they do beat the Pacers and move on to the NBA Finals. You had a Cavs team with Donovan Mitchell hurt. He was not in the last game in Game 5. You versed a Heat team without Jimmy Butler the entirety of the series. And now you're facing a Pacers team with Tyrese Halliburton, I believe, dealing with a back issue. He seems to be better now, dropping 26 points and 6 assists. However, they're not 100% healthy. Meanwhile, with Porzingis back, and hell, my dad always brings it up how the Celtics still have a very good record without Kristaps Porzingis, but even with them, though. So let's say with them, they're basically healthy. Now he's out, but even then, the numbers say they're still perfectly fine without him. In totality, Celtics are probably the healthiest team currently in the playoffs, which means that they should have the easiest pathway to get to the NBA Finals and win it no matter who they play. Now, I think if the Celtics face the Timberwolves in the Finals, that is going to be, I think, honestly, in favor of the Timberwolves. Defensively, more consistent. Offensively, for some reason, it's crazy to think, but Ant Edwards can hit like a 28-foot jumper consistently and drive and do a mid-range and drive to the lane and create some acrobatic circus shot. I'm still incredibly impressed with how that Nuggets-Timberwolves series was and just how good Anthony Edwards played. So this Celtics team, it's a little bit nerve-wracking because of the fact that they like to foul a lot. They're 30th. In personal fouls defensively, not good. So I'm taking the Celtics in 6. I think there'll be a couple games where the Pacers replicate or relatively closely replicate Game 7 against the Knicks, or hell, even what was it, Game 6, I think as well. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch what the Pacers do against the Celtics team tonight. Was it tonight at 8 on ESPN? It's going to be a good series. I think it's going to be both these series are going to be incredible. And I think Tyrese Halliburton, it's going to be something to see what he could do because we've seen in the Knicks series, if he shoots 5 shots, for whatever reason, I don't know why he's shooting 5 shots. How many did he shoot in Game 7? Let's see if I can get it up here very quickly. In Game 7, he took 17 shots, made 10 of them, went 6 of 12 from 3. That's what the Pacers need. The Pacers live and die through Tyrese Halliburton. If he shoots 5 shots and makes 4 of them, hell, I still think they're going to lose because he needs to shoot volume. Because when he shoots volume, he generally makes a lot of them as well. And he's also probably one of the best true point guards, if not the best, the best true point guard in the NBA right now. So how will he do against Drew Holiday and Derek White, who is maybe going up against arguably the greatest defensive backcourt in the NBA? I think, yeah, you probably could say that. So I think Tyrese Halliburton will definitely have his work cut out for him. But I think they could do it because they like tempo. They like the fast-paced nature of their offense. The Celtics, however, is not the case. So possessions, the amount of possessions per 100 possessions, they're ranked 23rd. The Pacers, first. So the Celtics are going to need to keep up. They have to. Otherwise, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty at all. Because I saw it against the Knicks. They were slow in their transitions. They were slow in rotations. Or the Pacers are that fast. And I'll give it to the Pacers. The Pacers, I think, are genuinely that fast, moving the ball around, passing the ball up court, passing around the dime. Or I was going to say the dime. That's MOB. But passing around the court, getting it to the open guy, and then finding a nice shot. I don't know if the Celtics are going to be that quick. I really don't. For the sake of me trying to be right and picking the Celtics in 6, I hope they are. But we'll have to wait and see tonight. Game 1, 8 p.m., ESPN. Quick show. Quick 40 minutes of your time. So we have a lot to talk about on Friday's show as well. Justin Fields. There's a lot going on with Justin Fields. Toxicity in the locker room. Now he's saying he's going to compete for the number 1 job with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll break all that down on Friday. But for today's episode of the Harvey Hour, I guess the Harvey 40 minutes, my name's Nathan Harvey. Thank you so much for tuning into today's show. Catch me and my dad, who will be returning for Friday's show on Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.